Good afternoon, everybody. So, favourite question that patients ask us is, Mike, how long do you think it's going to take me to get better? And quite naturally, people say, Mike, I want a quick fix. A lot of our patients who happen to be ladies say, I'm not a patient. So, people ask us that. They're quite unfamiliar with the fact that actually, when you go to a chiropractor, or whenever you do anything that really does promote your health, time is a really big factor. And it's good to explain why, because we had a gentleman the other day that joined us. He had severe back injuries. He was quite worried because he was off work and he's got a family, he's got young children. And when we looked at the x-ray studies that we did for him, he was carrying a lot of damage to his spine. So much so that he had a lot of vertebrae in his low back that were really out of place, pressing on a lot of nerves, causing him a lot of pain. Now, within about 7 weeks, he was back at work. In fact, I think it was 6 weeks he was back at work, and he'd been off work for some time. And he's continued to be at work, and he's done really well. But the thing is, he turned around to me when we saw him for what we call a review the other day. In other words, once we'd worked with him for his first 3 months, we sat down and looked at all the progress he'd made formally. And he said, do you know something? He said, I've learned that getting healthy, coming to you guys, coming to the chiropractor, he said, it's definitely a marathon. It's not a sprint. And we found that with a lot of people. And we've also found that when we work with people, we've found that things like pain and symptoms can start to improve quite quickly. And getting your function back, getting your movement back, getting back into your normal life can happen quite quickly. It's really important to share with people that that's the first step. So if we were going to talk about running even more, when we work with a person, it's a marathon with hurdles. And usually the first hurdle for a lot of people is getting to a point where they're out of some of the pain and they're getting some of the function back in their life. And if you know the reasons why, you often feel better for knowing why. So when we got talking to this particular gent, he's in his late 20s or early 30s, and he's been in the building trade since he's left school. So he might have been in the building trade 10 plus years, and he was actually showing us some video footage of what he does at work. So for 4 or 5 days a week, he's racing against the clock because everybody wants their house built yesterday, just like everybody wants to be better yesterday. He's racing against the clock, and he's leaning down into foundations all day, laying concrete blocks. So we said to him, if you think about it, or I was thinking, it's a miracle that after, 6 weeks of working with you, you're in a lot less pain, you're moving a lot better, you're back at work. Because look, we said the damage that's been building up in your spine has took 10 years. So you've been building this problem for 10 years, but in 6 weeks, look what you've achieved. And he felt better about that, because what happened was, as we worked with him, some of the other hurdles that happen with everybody that we work with is, it's never a steady race. It's never a steady race. I very rarely meet people where week in, week out, they go better. I often meet people where they'll have phases where it's going really well. You know, they're improving, lots of symptoms are improving. They're starting to get the life back. They're starting to improve in ways they didn't even realise were a problem, if that makes sense. And then they'll have a week where they'll go, I don't know what's going on, but I don't feel as good this week. Some of my pain has come back. And it's really normal. It's really normal, because if you think about a marathon, for those of you who've done one, there's stages where the sun's shining, the birds are singing, you're flying along. And then there's stages where you think, if I have to run up that hill, I'm just going to give up and cry in the corner. But what you find is that most people, when you work with them over a period of time, and that's the big one, we work with people often for a minimum of 3 months, because early days they see improvements, but if they want improvements that are much more likely to last them, they've got to look at it as being like a marathon. So that being that, you then look at people's background outside of here, and you think, well, why is it a marathon for people to get better? And a lot of it comes down to just modern life as well. So the gentleman I was telling you about, he's digging and fitting footings on a building site, But then we've got other people at the other end of the spectrum where they're at a desk all the time and they're never moving. So they're getting damaged because they're not so much overloading, but things are wasting away, getting weak, getting stiff, getting tight. That's a really big really big reason. And they might have been doing that for 5 years or for 10 years. So how much movement we've got over the years really counts. If we've had trauma, so if you think about builders, plasterers, plumbers, they're receiving lots of little traumas on the body every day. That builds up over years. And often when people come to see us, you know, they know that it's hurt them for weeks, months or years, but it's always been building up for years before they feel it. And that it's a really good point, because your body in a way is like a sponge. It'll soak up abuse at work, it'll soak up an unhealthy lifestyle, and I've been guilty of that, I'm just saying. It'll soak up a lot of problems until water starts leaking out of it, the pain in other words, or the disease or the symptoms. So what often happens is people have soaked up things in their lifestyle for many, many years before they actually start feeling problems in the lifestyle. And that's another reason why when we work with a person, it's a marathon for them to get better rather than a sprint. There are exceptions though. So sometimes we'll see people where they make massive changes in a very short time. And the key there is that's when people really change. So we've had some people where we've sat down with them and they've realised that the job that they're doing, they really hate it, and it's causing them all kinds of problems at home and as well as at work. And they immediately change jobs and become a different person. Some people in that category will make very big, very rapid changes because they've changed as a person. What we see happens on the whole with probably 99% of people is they'll either get more consistent with the healthy lifestyle that they've got, because a lot of us are guilty, aren't we? You know, we do a diet for 2 or 3, 4 weeks in January, and then it comes to February, we forget about it till next New Year's Eve, or we make a commitment to do some exercise for a summer holiday, and then it dies back down in the winter. So that's a big one, whether you're looking at your diet, your activity, your mindset, your sleep, being consistent with good habits, that's a real game changer for people. So when people are saying, well, what can I do so that I'm upping my chances of really getting well when I come to see you, we always talk about the basics, and we just say, well, if you're getting enough sleep, and people go, get away, Mike, sleep, what's that going to do to help me get better? And we say, well, sleep is when your body's repairing itself. When we work with you, we're trying to help your body do its own healing and own repairs. But if you do your part, it's going to work. If you sleep more and get a proper night's rest, it's going to work. If you rest and relax as well, it's going to work better. If you're drinking enough water, it's going to work better. If you're eating a really good clean diet, it's going to work better. And you find that when people who don't do those things, and this is really good, they just start doing a little bit of them. So you'll see people where they'll just start going to bed a bit earlier, they'll drink more water, they'll get some rest, they'll spend a bit more time playing with the children, they'll finish early at work at least once or twice a week. You see that when people do that, it's like they're running a marathon on grass now instead of a lot of people's lifestyle. It's like they're running a marathon through mud and treacle and trees and brambles, because they're trying to get to a destination of getting better, but because they're not getting enough sleep, they're not drinking enough water, they're at work too much, they're not resting, they're not spending enough time with their families, all of those things, it's like they're running through mud all the time. And it's a lot harder to get to your destination if you're running through mud, isn't it? So those are just some little things that really help people. I thought I'd share those today, and hopefully whether it's going to a chiropractor, or let's say somebody's cleaning up the diet like I'm doing at the moment, or whether it's somebody drinking more water and getting more sleep, if you realise that doing those things, it always takes time to see changes, because wherever you are at the moment has took years to get there. So when you want to get to somewhere new, it always takes time again. Hope that helps, guys. And Kieran, thank you for being on here. Clifford, nice to see you. Sandy, we saw a request come up to join a video, so if there's something we can do to help you, feel free to inbox us, or if you wanted to join in on a video, let us know. We always, if we're doing a video with somebody out there, we always talk to them first before we go ahead and do it. But if if that's something that would interest you, we'd love to speak to you. Julie, thanks for being on here. And Emma, good afternoon to you both. Have a good afternoon, everybody. Bye-bye for now.